Hi viewers, as my channel is predominantly about silver and gold, I thought it would be appropriate to upload this restoration of a Victorian gold changer. Now, I didn't know a lot about these devices but had to do some research for the restoration anyway. Now, these basically would have been owned by the storekeeper and secured to a counter within the store. The two slots on the front of the glass door, as you can see there, were for the insertion of either a gold sovereign or a half sovereign. These went inside the machine and allowed the exchange for silver crowns contained within the brass tubes inside. Now, as you can see, it was in a pretty sorry state when I received it. So the first thing I had to do was dismantle the whole thing. Then it was time to address the brassware, shot blasting the rough cast parts and polishing the polished parts. Now it was on to the woodwork. I fabricated a new back and colour matched it with the original. The base was cleaned and repolished. The remains of the door were disassembled, ready for the fabrication of a new bottom rail. There was a wooden moulding completely missing from around the bottom of the cabinet, so I had to fabricate a new one and colour match it. Before I reassemble the cleaned and repaired components of the gold checker, I thought I'd show you how the clever engineering worked. We'll start with the place where the gold enters. Is these two ports which are on the front of the cabinet, or will be, and one takes a full sovereign and the other a half sovereign, I believe. Now the sovereign goes through, and if it's the correct diameter, this little flap will allow it to pass further on the slide. Now the thickness of the slide is the correct thickness for the sovereign, I'm guessing. The sovereign then drops down onto this little scale that weighs it. Now if the sovereign weighs correct, it drops down into this funnel and goes through onto the second component. If it doesn't weigh right, it drops through into this spout and shoots out the front of the cabinet. So let's take a look at the second component, which is this drawer which resides underneath the gold checker. The sovereign then goes into this little slot here and down into this arm, which releases the drawer which will contain the silver crowns in exchange for the gold sovereign. And obviously without a coin in there it won't open, and once you've opened the drawer, this peg pushes the sovereign down into the drawer beneath. I'll see if I can show you how the drawer mechanism works with an actual gold sovereign. So the sovereign drops down from the gold checker and lands in that little arm. Now when you pull on the drawer, that peg rolls it over into the wooden drawer below, and you shut the drawer and it's locked. Moving on to how the crowns are released from the drawer, the cast brass drawer sits in there, and these tubes hook on and locate in the drawer. Now these brass cups are loaded with silver crowns. I haven't got any to hand, so these are copper nickel, but they sit in the cup and are loaded like so, and then when the mechanism is released by the sovereign dropping through, you pull out the drawer and a second one will take its place after you've taken the cup of crowns out. So let's take a look at what happens when you insert a counterfeit. This is a 20p that I dug with the metal detector. Whether you saw that, it dropped on the scale and it didn't weigh enough, so it shot out the front. Now let's put a gold sovereign in the gold checker. And there you go. Goes through the chute and into the draw mechanism, which releases the silver crowns. I now start to reassemble all the components back together. And now with the door on, it starts to look complete. The gold changer is now assembled, so we'll give it a try out with the crusty 20p in the sovereign slot. And out it comes at the bottom, and we'll give it a try with the genuine gold sovereign. See if we can get that to focus there in the sovereign slot, and hopefully it will release the drawer and release the crowns, and with a bit of luck the sovereign should be in the drawer. Clever those Victorians, weren't they? For those interested, I thought I'd just quickly go over the renovations. Obviously all the woodwork had to be cleaned because it was absolutely grim, and a repolish, but obviously leaving a lot of the original marks and imperfections. You don't want it looking brand new. The brass work was absolutely grim, so that had to be stripped and polished. I had to fabricate a key because there wasn't one, and obviously fabricate and match a new bottom rail for the door. There was also this moulding missing, which would have been on the originals, to cover screw holes in the side. So I've had to fabricate that and colour match that. Moving to the back, obviously I had to fabricate a new back for it because the other one was worm eaten, and obviously colour matched. And there was a spring come off inside the drawer mechanism, so I had to disassemble and try and straighten that gently and reinstate that. And obviously the internal drawers, they all needed sandblasting because they were just absolutely grim, and obviously the other brass work polished up, and there it is, all back and working. So the sovereign drops down from the gold checker, falls into that little arm, and then when you open the drawer it rolls out and drops on the fucking floor.